Hi, this is Marcia. Welcome. I'm here today to start a new series called Ask Marcia. I actually proposed this first within my Skool community group that's spelled Skool, and I call that group Family Care Compass. And I opened up the idea of just having those group members ask me questions. And once a week or so, I would take time to answer those questions. And this is one of the very first questions that I got. It says, what should I be doing for family members with serious signs of cognitive decline? This is a great question and one that concerns a large number of families as they do see their older family members struggling with short-term memory loss and maybe sometimes even something more severe. So my very first guidance to any family member that's experiencing this with a loved one is take some notes. And what do I mean by that? Well, track what you see happening. What is it that has shifted in their patterns of behavior or the way that they're handling themselves or holding their body even, or a look in the eye? All those little things can speak to the beginnings of mental decline, as well as when you move into a much more advanced and serious stage. When you take those notes, then I recommend that as you see things over the course of a week or two, go to other family members or their close friends or even neighbors who might see them on a much more regular basis than you do, and just say, hey, I've sort of noticed this about mom. Do you see this, or am I being overly concerned? A lot of times those friends and neighbors, they've got the same concerns, but they don't know who to talk to and they don't know how to express it, just like you struggle expressing it to your loved one. So take those notes, go have that conversation with some other people, check out what you're seeing in terms of changes of behavior, habits, and what your loved one is doing. And if there is sort of a consensus that your loved one is experiencing exactly what you are seeing, then it's time to talk about how do you get them into the doctor. You really do want your loved one to be evaluated at this point by a physician, because there are many ways now that those mental declines can be handled, treated. Some of the symptoms of agitation, paranoia, anxiety, frustration, and worry can be managed, which makes everyone's life a little more comfortable as you're trying to support them and care for them. If you have power of attorney for healthcare, then I would say give a call or an email into the doctor's office. Let them know some of the signs and things that you see going on with your loved one, and tell them that you just want to schedule an appointment in the near future to bring your loved one in. If you don't have power of attorney for healthcare, here's the trick, and it is sort of a trick that I always tell family members. Just call into the office and say, hey, I'm Marcia, I'm the daughter of Alice, and I'm seeing some things go on with my mom that are concerning me. And it seems to be her mental capacity, her mental function. And I understand you can't talk to me about it, but I really want to leave some notes in her chart for the doctor to review. How best do I do that? So make the doctor's office part of your team, okay? Then third, I'm checking my notes. Third, then you really need to try to have a conversation with your loved one. Now, this may sound crazy because the question already is, what do I do with a family member that has serious mental decline? Well, you never know exactly which portion of brains are being impacted the most by that mental decline. And you don't want to make them anxious, paranoid, frustrated, or angry, because that means that they're not going to be cooperative and they're not going to work with you. They'll be working against you every step of the way. And life is pretty miserable when it gets to that point. So I always recommend See what kind of conversation you can have. But here's some tips. These are really important. You need to take the worry out of your face. You need to try to get rid of wrinkles across the forehead. And you got to try to get rid of the anxiousness in your voice and in your eyes, the look of your eyes when you're talking to them. I know that's hard to do, but it will really help you a lot, because here's one tip again with mental decline. People will begin to focus on your face. They may not understand every word. They may not be able to connect dots on all your thoughts, but they will watch your face. They will read those nonverbal messages. So if you come in with a very concerned look in your face, sort of a grim look on the mouth, and some wrinkles showing up, what are they going to pick up in terms of your nonverbal message? They're going to pick up that, oh my gosh, there's worry, there's anxiety, there's concern, something bad is happening. I need to, focus on that. Now, I'm not saying that they even mentally think that, but subconsciously that's what their brain is responding to, because that's what we've all been conditioned to over our lifetime. So be careful about your demeanor, your nonverbal messaging. Go in with as much as possible a very calm, very peaceful, positive actual attitude towards the whole situation, and begin to just ask them some questions, not to interrogate, but say, hey, how you been doing? Things been going all right for you? See what they respond. Cue in, listen to what they're saying. And as you respond to them, use simple words and very short sentences. And do it 1 or 2 sentences at a time. And then stop. And let them respond to what you've said. So regardless of what you're going to say, keep it simple, keep it short, keep it to the point. Oftentimes, if you just simply say, Mom, I'm just wondering, how can I best help you? Now, when you put it that way, versus saying, Mom, I'm really concerned. You can't even write out a check anymore. You're not eating the way you should be eating, and you haven't been able to go to the grocery store. I'm really concerned. What's going on? Number one, that's going to be way too much data, too much information. You've already set them up in a defensive mode, versus coming to them calmly, peacefully, just having a conversation with them and asking them, hey, what could I be doing to be more present, more helpful to you? Would you like me to go to the grocery store with you? You know I love going to the grocery store. Can I go to the grocery store with you? Little ways. Mom, would you like to go get your hair done? I know your hairdresser hasn't seen you in a while. Shall we set an appointment? You make them part of the team, part of the conversation. You're not at all coming across like you're going to take over. Then I think the last and most important thing is, and again, every situation is unique. Every person is unique in terms of how they move through mental decline and a lack of capacity. You really have to take a look at what I call safety issues. And this is probably the most important thing. Safety. They need to be able to be physically safe within their environment. If they're not physically safe any longer, then what is the level of safety concern? Are they falling and no one is around to assist them? Are they falling in the shower or trying to get a bath? That becomes obviously a high level safety concern, because a lot of people do fall in showers, even if they don't have mental issues. And so that becomes something you really want to cue in on. So physical safety. Here's one of the key messages that I always give families. Would they know what to do if a fire broke out in the house, either on the stove or in the dryer when they're washing and drying some clothes, or any place else in the house? Would they remember to call 911? Could they pick up the phone? Whether it's a landline, a cell phone, whatever, can they grab the phone and know to dial 911? Do they remember their address? Because particularly on cell phones, we're still not at the point where they can really nail exactly where that cell phone is. They can get within 2-3 houses, but it's still very hard to get right directly to the person holding that cell phone. So it's, do they know what to do in an emergency? Can they call 911? Do they know their address? Do they remember their name or not? And how old they are? Can they express what actually is happening and going on? So that all relates to that safety factor, physical safety. Then, of course, the other area of safety is their overall health. Are they taking medication correctly? How do you know whether they're taking medication correctly or not? Are you finding pills on the ground? Or are you finding their pill tray that's been filled out? Maybe you even helped to fill out the pill tray, but they're missing days, sporadic days and times in which they're not getting their medication that they may very well need for heart conditions, lung conditions, whatever it might be. So that whole area of health safety. Financial safety. You know, there's so much fraud, so many scammers, so many hackers. How are they handling their finances? Have they forgotten how to write out a check? Maybe they can put in the number amount on the number line, but they don't know how to write it out in longhand. $100, they might be able to fill out the $100, but they've forgotten how to fill it out 100 and 00 over 100. Hopefully that makes sense. So that shows up a lot of times. Do you know if they're going into the bank and talking to the bank on a regular basis, taking money out, particularly taking money out, and maybe hiding it someplace in the house or giving it to someone? So you need to make sure financially they're being safe. Those are probably the key areas. I'll leave you with those key areas of safety right now: the physical, the health, and the financial. Those are key areas of safety that you need to be looking at, and how your loved one is able to act independently or not. I think the last thing I will say is it's all about the car, which is really a tough issue to address. How do you get the car keys away? Well, you know, in most states, it's a privilege, not a right, to drive a car. And you can let the doctor know that you're very concerned about their driving, because the last time they went to the grocery store, you found out they got lost trying to get home. That actually happens a lot. So you can let the doctor know. And then in most states, you can let your Department of Motor Vehicles, or whatever the state department may be called, and let them know. And they'll often then bring that individual in for a special driving test. Just depends on how your state handles that thing. Now, if you can't get that kind of support and help between the doctor and your own state motor vehicle department, then the other thing, and I will tell you, I've had to do this a couple of times, had to pull battery cables off the car until we could have the conversation, until we could figure out how to really convince the individual that they were not safe on the road. A lot of times the message I give about the driving safety is, would you not feel horrible if you were driving and got into an accident and severely injured or hurt somebody else? And for most people, they would say, well, of course I'd be upset. Of course, but that's never going to happen. Well, it does happen, Mom. It does. And at this point, I really think you need to stop driving until we can get you checked out by the doctor. We can have you go back in, take a driver's test. I know you don't want me judging your driving skills, so we'll let the state determine your driving skills. That's the toughest conversation to have, but one that if they're severely mentally, cognitively impaired, you've got to have. And you've got to figure out, where do you hide the keys or take the keys away from them? So I hope these are just a few tips and hints about what you as a family member and caregiver can be doing to help to support your loved one. There's so much more that we could cover, so much more that we'd be talking about. But I just wanted to give a few tips and hints. Again, if you do have any questions, reach out to me, direct message me on Facebook through Vaca Associates. Excuse me. And I'll get right back to you, or join my Skool community, the Family Care Compass. Skool is spelled Skool, and our community is called the Family Care Compass. So join us there. It's free to join, and you can be part of an ongoing conversation with a really wonderful group of people. So thank you for your time today, and take care and have a great day.